We plan to be here for the bat mitzvah because, we live in the States. It's sometimes hard to remember who you are, and trying to teach Tori to remember who she is, which in any religion, in any walk of life, gets harder and harder. There's so much noise that drowns out sometimes in society who you are. The silence is deafening. It's palpable. You can feel what was here, and to be connected to that is magical. You don't get that in many places in the world. The story ultimately is a sad story, but it's not just the ending of the story, it's the redemption, it's the struggle, it's the fight, it's the faith of the Jews that came here to live as Jews.
In celebrating her bat mitzvah, 12-year-old Tori is undergoing a religious rite of passage. It's the age at which Jewish girls are considered old enough to understand God's laws and to be accountable for their own actions. Marking her coming of age here is something Tori will never ever forget.
It's kind of from seeing city life to desert life. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, who gets to come to Israel for their bat mitzvah on top of a really, really, really great mountain? Who gets to just enjoy the sights and the views? Who gets to do that? That makes it special for me. And the desert, it's just so great.
Other tourists come for less elevated reasons. Masada looks down on the Dead Sea, the lowest point in any landmass on the planet, 425 meters below sea level. River water flows into the sea but can't flow out. It simply evaporates, leaving a salty residue that's built up over the millennia. A third of this water is dissolved salt. It's 6 times saltier than the ocean, and no fish can survive in it. It's dense. Famously, you don't swim here, you float. The healing properties of Dead Sea salt and mud have always drawn visitors to this place. These days, it's a multi-million-dollar business. Some of the world's finest hotels, luxury spa treatments. The mud of the Dead Sea is enriched with minerals essential to healthy skin. It's used to treat psoriasis and eczema, as well as arthritis. Therapy or relaxation, Dead Sea mud packs are famous. Legend has it that one person who came here to use them was Cleopatra. It's good to de-stress, but the bosses of this tourist industry are far from relaxed. Their livelihood depends on the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea is disappearing. For decades, water from the River Jordan, which feeds it from the north, has been siphoned off for irrigation, factories and homes. Over 1 billion cubic meters of water a year used to flow into the sea. Today, it's less than 100 million. The vital flow has turned into a trickle, and the sea level is dropping fast. These markers have been placed at the shore's edge year by year to keep track of how rapidly the sea is shrinking. Every year, the water depth decreases by as much as a meter. At the same time, new water-intensive industries have appeared, accelerating the Dead Sea's decline. The north of the sea has become separated from the southern end, and dikes have been built across the whole of the southern portion. They've created huge salt evaporation pans, which extract carnallite. The mineral is processed to make potassium chloride, a chemical used in fertilizers, medicine, and food. The raw materials for magnesium metal are also produced here. It all has the effect of reducing water levels even further. And nowhere is this more evident than Ein Gedi Spa, which used to advertise that it was right on the water. But dropping sea levels means it's now almost 2 kilometers away from the shore. If you want to bathe, you have to be driven there. It's exasperating for spa manager Yonatan Elbaz.
עם השנים, חוף הים, הוא היה ממש מגיע עד קצה הכביש, כמו שרואים טיפה יותר דרומה מפה. ממש, איפה שאנחנו עומדים כאן עכשיו, הכל היה מים. אנשים היו יורדים איפה שהדקלים והיו מתרחצים במים. בעצם בשנים האחרונות, ב-20 שנים האחרונות, בגלל מפעלי ים המלח שבדרום, הם שואבים את כל הים והים מצטמק והתייבש כמעט לחלוטין. במשך 20 שנה איבדנו כמעט 2 קילומטר של כביש, של ים, סליחה.
If no action is taken, experts predict that the water level will drop by a further 100 to 150 meters, and many see no end to the process. Yonatan is not alone in fearing that before long, this desert will lose its sea altogether.
אני מאמין שעוד 20-30 שנה כבר לא יישאר לנו ים פה, זה יהיה שלולית אחת קטנה, ומעבר לרמה האישית שלנו, של העסק שלי או בכלל, זה בעיה שהיא לאומית ועולמית, כי אין ים המלח שני בעולם שלנו.
Over millions of years, a natural equilibrium here created a unique desert environment. In a matter of generations, that balance seems to have been completely overturned. What's certainly true is that there's a new and deadly danger on these banks. The drop in sea level has been followed by changes to the groundwater. Along the shore, layers of brine that used to underpin the topsoil have been flushed out. Below the ground, cavities form, then collapse, dramatically and without warning. The gaping depressions are called sinkholes. For decades, geologist Eli Raz has been studying what's happening on land as the water level drops.
כשהגעתי לכאן בשנות ה-70, אז קו החוף היה ממש פה, הים היה פה. לא היה זכר כמובן ולא סימן לבולענים. הבולען הראשון הופיע בסוף שנות ה-80, ואז נוכחנו לדעת שיש עוד בולענים בסביבה, אבל לא היה מדובר על יותר מכמה עשרות. במשך הזמן בולענים התרבו והתרבו, והיום אנחנו מדברים על אלפי בולענים לאורך ים המלח.
Every few days, new holes appear, and each one represents danger. Eli has begun to map them and to try to get a grasp on the precise conditions which cause them. Strangely, Eli came to the desert to get away from life as a geologist. It was idealism which brought him here. In the late 1950s, he joined a kibbutz, an agricultural cooperative.
כמובן שעם הזמן החקלאות התפתחה, והגידול המוביל בחקלאות של נאות מדבר זה התמרים. נאות מדבר ותמר זה הולך ביחד.
The Judean date palm has been cultivated in this desert oasis for thousands of years. Although next to no rain falls here, natural springs provide water for crops and plants. The kibbutz today sees itself as the successor to the biblical settlement of Ein Gedi, famous for its vineyards and palm trees. Eli grew up in a much more fertile part of Israel, but something here spoke to his soul.
המשמעות של המדבר ליהודים היא מאוד מאוד עמוקה. העם היהודי נוצר במדבר. עכשיו, באופן אישי, אני נולדתי לא במדבר, אבל פה אתה רואה את הקשר בין הדברים. וזה באופן אישי, זה הדבר שחשוב לי.
But Eli realized the modern-day mission to replant and restore the date groves was now in peril. sinkholes were rapidly undermining the cultivated land. So to safeguard the project in which the kibbutz had invested so much, Eli returned to surveying the local geology. And that all but cost him his life. In 2003, he was out alone checking new sinkhole activity. A massive chasm suddenly opened beneath his feet. He came to at the bottom of a hole 9 meters deep.
לגמרי לא. אבל כשקצת התאוששתי, הרגשתי שאני קבור בערימת מפולת, והייתי די בפאניקה, די נפחד. גם היה לי קשה לצאת מערימת המפולת הזאת. ובסופו של דבר, כשישבתי על ראש ערימת המפולת בתחתית הבור, התחלתי לחשוב מה אני עושה. החשש הכי גדול שלי זה שתהיה עוד מפולת, וזה הסוף של הסיפור. ואז מצאתי בכיס שלי גלויה. והחלטתי שאני כותב על הגלויה כמה שאני יכול, נפרד מהאנשים הקרובים אליי.
Soon Eli had written on every inch of the postcard. But it would be another 14 hours before rescue arrived.
אז נזכרתי שיש לי בתרמיל שהייתי חגור בו ונפלתי יחד איתו, יש לי גליל של נייר טואלט. והוצאתי את הגליל הזה וכתבתי עליו כל שעות האור שהיו לי כתבתי עליו.
Back in his office, Eli still keeps private the testament he wrote that day. Special messages to his closest loved ones. For all that he knew at the time, they were his last words to them. But though he's learned caution, nothing keeps him from measuring the environmental damage that's happening here. As a geologist, Eli knows that in this desert of the soul, the landscape shapes material fortunes too. The sinkholes have arrested the economic growth of the whole region. Major tourist attractions like Matsada have escaped lightly, with investment in infrastructure like this cable car system and a gleaming new visitor center. And sections are being repaired on stretches of road which are now too dangerous to drive. But many businesses are struggling, communities are failing, and residents are being driven away by the lack of work. And for Eli, the future of his oasis in the desert is worth so much that he's willing to go on risking his life for it. The Judean desert. Harsh, deceptive, deadly. Here there's nothing soft, nothing easy. This wilderness strips away distraction and pretension. So it's always been a land of deep contemplation, of spiritual yearning. It challenges us to fathom the bedrock of existence. There are those who call it the desert of the soul. But this pilgrim's paradise is also a theater of conflict and struggle. It's a place where people trade on tourism and profiteer from the legacy religion has left here. In the name of progress, this promised land suffers terrible harm. And yet beyond all our shortcomings, the Judean desert still calls on us to look within ourselves to find a better nature and to lift our eyes in search of a better future here on this earth.